This little cutie is the Suzuki Fronx, a small crossover SUV style model with some interesting design, a nice interior that's more spacious than you might expect for its size, and a pretty long list of standard equipment. I'll cover everything you need to know about the Fronx in this review, the pricing and specs, the ownership stuff, and also the best alternatives to it. So let's check it out, shall we? It's Fronx time. Suzuki Australia is keeping it pretty simple when it comes to the Fronx because there's just one variant available. It is $28,990 plus on-road costs, and you can expect an introductory drive-away deal of $29,990 for this model if you want one that has white paint, because, well, the other versions, there's 6 other colors, they will cost you extra. The two-tone finish looks really quite snazzy, I have to say, but it does add a bit to the cost. Now, what about the standard equipment list? Well, surprisingly, for a relatively affordable car, this car has plenty of standard gear. You've got LED daytime running lights, LED headlamps, LED tail lights, 16-inch alloy wheels, there's keyless entry, push button start, you've got a 9-inch touchscreen media system with wired and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, there's a 4.2-inch digital instrument cluster for the driver, plus a head-up display as standard as well, which is awesome. You've got a 6-speaker sound system, and you've also got cloth and fake leather seat trim, but the front seats are heated despite having manual adjustment. There's also a wireless phone charger, an electronic park brake, climate control, air conditioning. I think you're getting a fair bit of stuff for your cash in this little car, as well as some really good safety tech, including a surround view camera as standard and front and rear parking sensors standard. But I'll tell you all about the active safety technology later on in this review, but let's consider some alternatives to this tiny little car. It'd be understandable if you're thinking cheap car, Chinese. Well, that would be right, especially if you're thinking about the Chery Tiggo 4, which could be a very good alternative to this because it has a few different versions available, starting at a very low price point. 24 drive away for that one, 27 for the highly spec'd version, which I would recommend because it does have a few extra features that you might like. It's not the most efficient thing, and it's not the most enjoyable thing to drive, but the value for money is great and it's very practical, and there's a hybrid version as well if you want that. Starts at $30,000 drive away, so similar money to this. Another option you might want to check out is the Mahindra XUV 3XO. That Indian-made SUV has a thrummy 3-cylinder, which is a beauty of an engine. It also has a nice character to the way it drives. The interior feels a little bit low rent by modern standards, but I do think that you're getting a fair bit of practicality for a tiny SUV in that Mahindra. So it could be a good choice as well. And finally, if you're thinking, well, I can spend just a little bit more, what could I get if I could say spend $33,000, $34,000? Well, you get a Skoda Kamiq, people. In fact, there's drive-away deals on white versions of the Skoda right now for 30 grand. So, hey, that could be a good choice. It has a very, very impressive 3-cylinder turbo petrol as well with a lovely transmission, and it's got super practicality. It's big on the inside and it has a big boot because it's slightly longer than this car. So it could be a great choice if you don't necessarily think you need something quite this small. And this one is quite small. But hey, what would you do? Would you choose this? Would you choose one of those? Or something else? Have you say in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Now, I've made out that this is a pretty small SUV, and I mean, your definition of SUV might vary to Suzuki's, but it is a crossover hatchback style vehicle, and it is quite small, less than 4 meters long. So if you live in an urban area and you know that parking can be a problem for you and your life, well, this could be a lovely companion for you. And it does have a long wheelbase. As you can see, those wheels are quite at the edges of the body of the vehicle, and it means that it has good stability, but I'll get to that later on. Now, have a look at the dimensions on your screen and see what you think. And also, let's talk about the weight. This is a light, small car, in fact, just over 1,000 kilos. So it does have the lightness on its side. That is a Suzuki trait. And I think this car does have a good amount of presence to it. It's got some of the SUV styling cues that you would expect, and those 16-inch alloy wheels look pretty tidy with Goodyear tires as well, which is a nice touch. Now, of course, on the back there is a hybrid badge, and it's got the LED light bar look going on. A nice, easy to open tailgate. No electric tailgate, but hey, It's a good amount of space in the back here. As you can see, I've got my luggage in the back to give you an idea of how much space you've actually got. But let me pull it out because there's much more space on offer here. So if I just reef it out like that, and then I show you what's happening underneath this boot floor, because there's even more storage. If I just lift it up and show you, look at that. That is a dual layer flooring setup in a car like this. That's pretty impressive. But what is not impressive, and I am not impressed, is this lack of a spare wheel, despite the fact there's clearly space for a space saver in there, because there's a big foam thing in the way. And as you can see, you've got a tyre repair kit instead. Now, you've got some good little storage nooks on the side too, and your jack is in there if you're wondering. And on this side, you've also got a light, another little storage nook, and shopping bag hook too. Look at this little flooring system. It does work pretty well, and it's solid, unlike some of the others out there, which are a bit flimsy. So, pretty clever boot space for a car of this size, I would say. Now let's check out the interior. Rightio, let's have a look at the interior of the Fronx, and it's going to feel familiar to Suzuki customers. It does have some elements of swiftness to it, but I do think that it is a nice cabin for the most part. I mean, don't go expecting luxurious finishes. You've got some pretty hard plastics around the place, but you do have some nice finishes on these seats with this fake leather trim at the top here and down the side bolsters and down the bottom as well, with a nice cloth insert. You've also got the vinyl on the doors with soft elbow pads up front and nice padding there. But again, the further you go up on the plastics, the cheaper it feels. But I do like the fact that you've got two-tone finishing in here rather than just having black or grey. You've got at least some interesting design, right? Now, speaking of other elements that are interesting, you've got this 9-inch touchscreen media system with wired and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you can go back into the home screen if you want to just see what else is on offer here. There's not a whole lot, quite honestly, people. If you just want to use the radio, well, you do have AM, FM, and digital radio too. Plus, you've also got some settings that you can go into if you wish by going through the settings controls. There are adjustments you can make to the stereo. 6-speaker stereo is standard, and you can also go in and change some things on the display. You've got some car settings, not many to play with, honestly, but yeah, I think that you'll get used to this pretty quickly, so long as you're okay with the fact that you don't have a volume dial. You do have volume buttons there on the screen. They're a haptic control, and it seems okay. There's also voice control. Haven't really used it because I don't think voice control is the greatest thing on earth, but in front of the driver, there's also a 4.2-inch driver info screen, which isn't on because the car's not on, and also not showing up because the car's not on is a head-up display. I'll show you a shot of it now, and it is a pretty info-friendly little piece of design that does help you not take your eyes off the road, and it has digital speedo, which is a great inclusion as well. Now back to some of the other controls in this car. You've got a fair few on the steering wheel, so you've got some media controls on this side. Your cruise controls are on this side with adaptive cruise. Yep, you've also got a lane keeping button there. Phone controls on this side, and you've even got paddle shifters if you want. Plus, there are wipers and a rear wiper, which is good, and blinkers and lights on that side. You've got auto lights and auto high beam, which is a nice plus. And here, there's a bank of buttons for some of your safety tech stuff, which you might want to switch off for whatever reason. You've got your AEB there, you've got your lane keeping assistance there, and you can turn off the engine start stop by pressing that button. Yeah, push button start too. So it does have a fair few features. You've also got regular mirror switches and window switches, just auto for the driver though, that's a bit cheapo. You've got bottle holders in the doors, and in front of the gear selector you'll also see there are a pair of cup holders, a wireless phone charger, USB-A port in there, and a 12-volt too. And you've got climate control, just a single zone setup in this car with digital temperature adjustment, some buttons there that you would expect to find, including a recirc button. No diving through menus on a screen to adjust shit in this car, so that's great. Down here, you've also got a sport button for sporty driving, an electronic park brake, an auto hold so the car won't creep forward in traffic if you don't want it, and some seat heating buttons too. So you can have the seat heating on or off. It's not multimodal. There's a little coin tray there and a small center console bin here with a nice soft elbow pad, so that's good. Now overhead you've got vanity mirrors with illumination, and that's on both sides, which is good. And you've got a regular mirror, so no auto dimming rear vision mirror. I don't know if that's a deal breaker, but it might be for someone. And I like the light headlining, and I also like that you've got simple light controls. So look, there's not everything that you might want, but for the money, you're getting a fair bit. Now let me show you the back seat space and comfort. Rightio people, this seat is set for my driving position, and I've got a surprising amount of leg room. For someone 6 foot tall, I've got lots and lots of foot room and lots of knee room as well. But the big issue in this car for taller occupants, especially when you're getting in and out, is the way that the roofline rakes down. So if you are tall, watch your head. You will bash it. I have twice already. But yeah, the headroom when you're actually sitting in here too, especially if you're longer torsoed, you might find it to be really quite tight. But I mean, if you've got little kids, grandkids or something like that, it should be okay. You've also got some grab handles in the back and a little coat hook. Plus, let's have a look at what's on offer here. You've got map pockets. There's USB A and C ports down there. So yep, that is handy to keep the devices charged up. Little storage trays, no rear air vents, which is a pain in my opinion. And you've also got bottle holders in the doors. Thankfully, soft material on the back doors as well, even though it gets harder the further you go up. And when it comes to the kids seat conditions, well, you've got ISOFIX points in the window seats, 3 top tethers, no flip down armrest, and no cup holders. So look, it is a budget car. And in some ways it does feel a little bit budget in terms of what's on offer, but I think the space is surprisingly pretty good for a tiny little car, and it might tick the box for family buyers and retirees or just first car buyers even. Under the bonnet of the Suzuki Fronx is a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder non-turbocharged petrol engine, and it is teamed up to a 12-volt mild hybrid system with an integrated starter generator and a lithium-ion 12-volt battery. If that means nothing to you, all you need to know is it's electrified to make it better on fuel, and we'll get to that later on. But it does have pretty decent outputs, 75 kilowatts and 136 newton meters. Remember, the weight of this vehicle is low, so it's not going to be overly difficult to move that much mass, and those outputs sort of suggest that. And it has a 6-speed automatic transmission, not a CVT, which is a nice thing, and it is front wheel drive only, no all-wheel drive version available. Now, as I said, it is a very small car weighing 1,064 kilos. So what is the performance like? Well, let's go for a drive and I'll show you. Let me tell you, it's a pretty mature drive experience in some ways, but maybe a little bit unpolished in others. Now, let's just see what happens when I take away from a standstill here. It's a stop sign. Here we go. Yep, so that might give you an idea that maybe the maturity levels aren't high for the powertrain power delivery. It's got Goodyear tyres. They're not bad tyres, but it does struggle to get all the grunt down to the surface. And at times, this 6-speed automatic transmission is a little bit clumsy. It does feel at times like it is making the wrong move, the wrong decision about what gear you should be in. So it might take some acclimatization to the way that this vehicle drives in terms of the engine and transmission, but also it's got hybrid technology as part of this system. It's not super duper hybrid, and hey, that is a common term these days, right? It's a mild hybrid thing with an integrated starter generator. So the idea there is that instead of it having to draw on the engine to do the stop start stuff, in theory, it can do it electronically and save you a bit of fuel. So in reality, I mean, I'll get to the fuel consumption stuff shortly, but I do think that the drive experience from the powertrain perspective is maybe not super polished. Maybe it'll get better over time, but this is a short little drive experience that I'm having with it today. Okay, so what about if I put my foot down? How much grunt have I got? It's okay. It's a little bit vocal, this powertrain as well. You do hear the engine in the cabin. And look, I think the thing is, if you're just going to be driving urban, as long as you're mindful with your acceleration, you should be okay. But just also, it is maybe a little bit eager to spin those front tires. So, and you got to be measured with your throttle application too. And then see, it upshifted too soon, and it does have this tendency to constantly try and save fuel, choose a higher gear, and that can be frustrating, quite frankly. There is a sport mode as well. So if you put it into sport mode, it will basically change the throttle response, make it hang on to gears a bit longer, and also change the steering weight just a little bit. And hey, that might actually be the better mode to be driving in some of the time, because if you don't want the transmission getting in the way of your drive experience, well, that could help in that regard, because it does seem to be a little bit more eager to do the right thing with the sport mode engaged. In other parts of the world, there is a manual version of this car, not for Australia though, but thankfully, if you do still want to scratch that itch, you can put it into manual mode and the paddle shifters will do the shifting for you. It will still override your decisions in some instances, but it's pretty snappy with the shifts. One other little observation, you might find that every time you get back into the car, you'll end up putting it all the way down into manual mode, and then you'll end up in manual mode because, well, it's the last stop. Rather than having a shifter that you push across to go into manual mode, it's just the last one, and that's the natural thing you do when you get back into the car, is put it all the way down. But yeah, a little bit annoying. So what about other elements of the drive experience? Well, the ride comfort is good. It's got a long wheelbase for a small, light car, and the ride is actually pretty impressive. It does have a firm edge to it at times, but I do think that generally the compliance on offer here is good, and at low speeds especially, it feels quite impressive. And over speed humps, lumps and bumps, you will find that it's quite mature in the way that it drives in that regard. And the steering, well, it's pretty good as well. It feels quite natural. It changes direction okay. It's not the most thrilling thing to drive, but it also has a really small turning circle of 9.6 meters, so it can do a full loop in 9.6 meters. That's pretty small for a little car. So a little car like this should be able to pull up pretty quickly. Let's check. Yep, it does. And the brake pedal feel and responsiveness is pretty good, I've got to say. It doesn't feel too airy under your foot. Now, this electrified powertrain does include regenerative braking as part of the equation. So when you're looking at the head-up display, and you can see that when you're braking, it starts to feed energy back to the battery pack to replenish it and hopefully save you some fuel. It is mild hybrid technology, and it's really basically trying to save you fuel in stop-start situations because of the integrated starter motor generator machine. So it's not full-scale hybrid driving. Don't come at it thinking that it is. And if you are sort of thinking about that, have a look at my Yaris Cross review, because it is much more of a hybrid experience. Now, like lots of new modern cars, it does have a whole host of active and advanced safety technology. It's got a speed sign recognition system which won't beep and bong at you. Thumbs up for that. And also, there's no driver monitoring camera, so that's one less thing to get on your nerves. Look, I do think that the safety integration here is pretty good. You do have lane keeping assistance if you want that. Hey, you might be very grateful for it. There's also adaptive cruise control too, so it can do the speed management stuff for you as well. Okay, so it has a hybrid badge on the back of it, and it is a electrified model. So is it real world efficient? First, let me tell you the official combined cycle fuel consumption number. 4.9 litres per 100 Ks is the claim. That's what you should be able to achieve across a mix of driving. I haven't been able to do my usual mix of driving today because I'm in regional Victoria, as I said, but I do think that you should be able to get close to it. If you're wondering what I've seen over my testing, you'll see it on screen. And it has been primarily country road driving, so maybe not working to the strengths of this car, but I think, as I said, it's not too bad. Now, Fuel requirement is on your screen, and I'll also show you the fuel tank capacity so you can do the maths and figure out what you might actually be able to get out of a tank. This car hasn't been tested by ANCAP or Euro NCAP, and honestly, I don't think it's going to score 5 stars. It might not even score 4 stars because the protocols for the modern era are pretty strict, and this car has a whole heap of standard safety equipment and technology, but some things that are missing from what is apparently required to make a car safe these days. So let's talk about what it does have. You've got autonomous emergency braking, there's lane keeping assistance and lane departure warning, you've got adaptive cruise control with stop and start tech too, plus there's a 360-degree surround view camera system, front and rear parking sensors, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and you've also got 6 airbags, dual front side, and curtain coverage for both rows of seats, but it does miss out on a front center airbag, which could work against it in the modern era. Now, it does also have some of the tech that it needs to have to appease the ANCAP gods or NCAP gods, including a speed sign recognition system, and it doesn't beep and bong at you. Mwah. Love that. And there's no driver monitoring camera, so that might work against it for the scoring criteria. But I'd love to know what you think. Would you choose a car that doesn't have a safety rating or that maybe doesn't have a 5-star score? Have your say in the comments, because I think these arbitrary watchdogs might be sort of making great cars a bit shit. In Australia, Suzuki offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and the brand also has a 5-year roadside program on offer. Now, there's a 5-year service program on offer too. It's either 5 years or 100,000 kilometres, so whichever of those milestones you meet first, that will be the level of it. And the service intervals are every 12 months and 15,000 K, so pretty generous, I would say. And beyond that, Suzukis do have a really great reputation for reliability and also for resale values. So it could be a pretty promising ownership experience, I would think. I'm just going to go out and say this, people. I reckon this could be the ideal retiree's car or the ideal first car, because it does offer plenty of safety technology and equipment, but also a pretty easy drive experience and good stuff for the money. The price is good, the fuel consumption's good, and while it isn't perfect, it seems to stack up pretty well for the cash. What would you do? Have your say in the comments. Would you choose this, one of those alternatives I mentioned, or something else? And hey, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you when I see you.